Two cops say it to a black army veteran across the room of a small-town diner.
Your skin color makes me lose my appetite.
A man who wore a different uniform for 22 years and never once raised his voice in a public place. The veteran sets his fork down. He does not raise his voice. Under a napkin, his thumb opens a voice memo, the way a soldier opens a valve. Small motion, large consequence. One phone call later, 8 weeks to the morning, a side door on the north face of Precinct 9 opens at 9:12. 3 people in navy windbreakers walk in. They do not knock. They do not wait. The FBI walked in. The cops, the ones who said it, the ones who laughed, walked out. If you want to see who actually walks out in cuffs, stay with this one. He has not said a word yet. He will not say many. That one hits different when you hear it out loud, doesn't it? I'm Kane Uncovers. I go digging in the stories somebody with money spent a whole lot of it hoping you'd never hear. And this one, it's been buried deep. But before this ending lands, the way it lands, you need to meet this guy. Back when he still thinks tonight is about a birthday cake. Coleman Ironworks closes for the day at 6:04. The last weld cools with a small, tired hiss. The smell of flux still clings to the inside of his shirt, sweet and bitter at once, the way every welder learns to breathe around it. Yates Coleman steps out of his bay, pulls the roll-up door down to the ground, and checks the padlock with 2 short tugs the way his father taught him. 48 years old, 6'2", palms rough the way only metal and heat make palms rough. A wedding ring on a welder's finger, a small dent where it meets a calloused knuckle. He calls home from the truck. Diane does not pick up. Grace's voicemail picks up instead, the greeting she recorded when she was 12 and has refused to change ever since. He smiles at the steering wheel. He leaves a short message. He tells her he is stopping for her cake and he will be home before the last slice of daylight. Cedar Falls is a mid-sized county seat in western North Carolina. 78,000 people on a good census. 2 precincts. A downtown strip where the bank used to be a feed store and still smells, on warm afternoons, like oats nobody planted. An east side neighborhood where his grandfather is buried and where his own house sits, porch light already on by the time he turns the key in the ignition. He drives north through town, past the high school, past the church whose parking lot he has swept twice after 2 different funerals, past the corner where he used to wait for his own father's truck on Fridays after school, counting cars until the red taillights of the Coleman Lincoln came around the curve. He files every receipt he ever gets: gas, groceries, pipe, wire, bread. On the back of each one, he writes the date and the time, in block print, in pencil. He has done it since Iraq. He does not know how to stop. He does not particularly want to. At 6:11, he parks 2 spaces from the entrance of the Blue Ridge Diner. Blue Ridge is not the nicest place in town. It is the place in town. The door chime is cheap. The linoleum is waxed on Mondays. The coffee is strong past honesty. Emma Carrington, 27, is halfway through a double shift, pouring decaf for a woman who will not drink it. Pete Callahan, 58, stands behind the register reading the same section of the paper he has been reading since lunch. A row of patrol jackets leans on the counter on the right, closest to the window. A Thursday night pattern for almost 4 years running. Yates nods to Pete. He nods to Emma. He does not join the counter. He orders a slice of yellow cake to go, Grace's favorite, frosted the color of new butter, and while he waits, a cup of black coffee in a heavy mug. He takes the corner booth. He sits where Diane cannot see him if she drives past, because Diane has told him twice that he eats too much pie. On a shelf at the shop, next to a photograph of his daughter in a softball jersey, sits a small brass coin about the size of a silver dollar, a unit insignia on one side, a motto on the other. He has never explained it to a customer. No one has ever asked. At 6:16, the door chime sounds. A Thursday ritual keeps its appointment. 2 patrol jackets walk in, not 3, 2, and the pattern bends a quarter inch off true. The bell above the door is cheap. It rings once, flatly, and then it does not ring again for a long time. Lieutenant Travis Whitaker, 41, 16 years on the Cedar Falls Police Department, 4 stripes on his sleeve, 200-some pounds carried like a man who learned it could be useful. Sergeant Dale Harper, 38, 11 years on, the quieter one, the one who scans a room first and speaks second. They walk in together, the way Thursday has trained them. Whitaker stops 2 steps inside the door. He looks past the counter, past Emma, past Pete, past the woman with the decaf. He looks straight at the corner booth, at the man in the faded work shirt sitting under the last light of a late autumn afternoon, and he says it plain. "Your skin color makes me lose my appetite." He does not smile when he says it. He does not laugh. He says it the way a man says a thing he has said before and has learned is permitted. Harper laughs once, short, dry, a cough of agreement, and in a voice low but audible across the quiet of the room, he says, "He's not wrong." Then he orders coffee like a man ordering coffee. The word permitted is the word that matters. Permitted is how a sentence walks out of the same mouth twice in a year. Permitted is the word officers earn from each other, slowly, without ever saying the word out loud. Permitted is how a room learns, over 4 Thursdays, not to flinch. Permitted is what outlasts a generation. Permitted is the reason the younger one laughs before he thinks. Permitted is a small permission renewed every week in the same room by the same people who swore to the same oath. Emma freezes mid-pour. The decaf spills over the rim of the cup, and the woman with the decaf stares at the spill instead of at the officers. Pete pretends to read his paper, and his paper does not move. Another patron, 3 booths down, discovers the back of his menu. Yates sets his fork down. He does not look up. He does not lift his voice. Under the napkin beside his plate, his left thumb presses a small glowing square, and a voice memo begins to run, silent and patient, the way a camera runs in a store ceiling. R1 is 4 minutes and 2 seconds of audio, and the diner does not know it yet. He speaks for the first time. "Officer, would you mind repeating that, please? For the record." Whitaker smiles. The smile is the same smile he used in the parking lot of the high school last spring. He shifts. He softens. He says, "Nothing personal, just an appetite thing." As if the second version could swallow the first. The audio has both. Yates pays in cash. He asks, politely, for a printed receipt with the time on it. He asks, at the register, for the names and badge numbers of both officers. He asks them by facing the register and by naming them into the open air of the room, and R1 catches every syllable. "Lieutenant Whitaker, Sergeant Harper, for the record." Pete's hand trembles on the receipt roll. The printer takes 3 tries to release the slip. The ceiling camera in the back corner, installed cheap in 2020, which Pete forgot includes microphones, logs the whole exchange to a hard drive that spins quietly behind the office door. R2 will come looking for that drive in a week and 2 days. Whitaker steps closer. He does not touch anything. He leans a shoulder against the booth partition, casual, proprietary, and he says it loud enough for Harper to hear and small enough to be denied. "Enjoy your pie, Chief." The word chief does work it should not do. It is not a compliment. It is not an accident. Yates takes the paper bag with the cake in it. He takes the receipt with the time on it. He takes the coffee in a to-go cup. He walks out without answering. The parking lot air is cold enough to see breath. He does not slam the truck door. He does not peel out. He sits for 12 seconds with his hands flat on the steering wheel. Then he writes 4 things on a napkin from the glove box. A time, a name, a second name, a license plate of the cruiser across the street. In the rear view, the cruiser pulls out behind him. 1 block, 2, 3. Magnolia Street runs straight for a mile and a half before it bends at the elementary school. On Magnolia, everyone drifts a little. The cruiser lights come up at the long straightaway, bright enough to color the inside of the truck cab blue, and then white, and then blue again. Yates pulls to the curb. He turns the engine off. He places both hands on the wheel at 10 and 2, fingers open. He has taught his daughter to do the same thing. Whitaker walks up slow. The body cam on his chest turns on at the door of the cruiser, which R3 will later timestamp at 6:28. The pretext, spoken plainly for the record, is failure to maintain lane. A tire did not touch a line. The body cam will show it, later, to anyone who asks. License and registration. Yates hands both across without a word. They sit on the console between them like two small rectangles that know the rules. Step out of the vehicle. May I ask the reason for the stop, sir? Step out of the vehicle, please. Yates steps out. The cold air of Magnolia Street has a different weight than the cold air of the parking lot. He is aware of the difference the way only people raised in the South are aware of the difference. The slight, particular shift of cold that comes off asphalt, still warm from the afternoon. Harper stands at the passenger window, 10 feet away. His hand sits near his holster, not on it. The easy laugh from the diner is gone. His jaw is set like a door that has decided not to open. Consent to search the vehicle? No, sir, I do not consent. You nervous for a reason? No, sir, I'm not nervous. He is not nervous. He is something else that looks from the outside exactly like it. The tow truck rolls in at 6:33, 5 minutes and 11 seconds after Whitaker's first call to dispatch. The side panel reads, Holloway Towing and Recovery, in peeling yellow. The Holloway dispatch log, pulled later by subpoena, will show a tow request entered at 6:27 and 42 seconds, 90 seconds before Whitaker's radio traffic. Someone called the tow lot first. R5 is a line on a spreadsheet, and a line on a spreadsheet can carry a man across a courtroom. Yates notes the company name. He does not react. He files it in the part of his brain that has filed things like it before. A woman walks a small dog past the curb and does not look up. A pickup slows, sees the cruiser lights, and drives on. The street is its own witness tonight, and the street is staying neutral. Whitaker leans into the driver's door. He sniffs theatrically, the way a man does a thing he has learned plays well on camera. Smells like a work van. Cash, tools, that kind of smell. I build fences for a living, Lieutenant. Metalwork. The smell is flux and diesel. A breath. I would like a supervisor on scene, please. Your supervisor is standing in front of you. I would like your supervisor, sir. With respect. No supervisor comes. Dispatch shows the request was not forwarded. The tow truck hooks the front axle of the Coleman Iron Works Ford at 6:39. Office of Safety, Whitaker says to the body cam, which will be played back by 3 different people who do not work for him. At 7:02, Yates is released on foot at the corner of Magnolia and 6th, 3/4 of a mile from his own front door. His phone is still recording in his pocket. His truck is on a flatbed heading north, toward a fenced lot outside of town that he has never had a reason to visit. He walks 2 blocks. The air is cold enough to burn the inside of his nose. A dog barks from behind a chain-link fence, once, and stops. He stops under a streetlight outside a closed hardware store. A closed sign in the window. A rack of propane tanks padlocked to a wall bracket. The sound of his own breath, slightly quicker than he would like, inside the tight collar of his jacket. He takes the phone out of his pocket. He does not call Diane. He does not call Sullivan. Not yet. He does not call his daughter. He makes 1 call. Not 2. Not a list. 1. A number he has not dialed in 9 years, carried the way soldiers carry call signs, never written anywhere, never saved as a contact. It rings twice. A woman answers. This is Donovan. He says his name. He says the words Cedar Falls and traffic stop, and I have audio. He does not say the slur out loud. He says racial remark, on record, in public, by a supervisor. He says the name of the tow company, and the 5-minute, 11-second window, and the 90 seconds of strange that sit on either side of it. Donovan does not ask how he is. She asks where he is. The second cruiser that Whitaker will later claim was just passing on Magnolia is the same unit number that, 3 weeks from now, will drive a code enforcement inspector to the gate of Coleman Iron Works at 7:40 in the morning. R4 will prove it. R10 will nail the time. That is how he knows she already knows some of this. 22 logistics fraud at 3 bases in 2 countries. A supply clerk in Germany, a warehouse supervisor in Kuwait, a lieutenant colonel in North Carolina who never expected to be deposed by a black NCO with a yellow legal pad and a steady hand. He retired at 39. He did not put it on a business card. He did not mention it at the Chamber of Commerce. The challenge coin on the shelf at the shop is the only sign a customer has ever seen. The call on the curb. That call. The one. The first and only number he dialed at 7:06 on a cold Thursday ran 4 minutes and 19 seconds. Agent Claire Donovan, 39, former Army CID agent, now at the Federal Bureau of Investigation Field Office 3 hours east, did not say yes. She did not say no. She asked him to do 3 things, in the clipped cadence of someone who had written the list down years before. Preserve the recording. Do not edit it. Do not share it. Do not play it for anyone, including your wife. Write a contemporaneous statement of events within the next 2 hours. Times, names, words. Include things you are not sure of. Mark those things with a question mark. Do not contact the Cedar Falls Police Department yourself. Do not accept contact from them without counsel. If they call, do not pick up. Everything else that happens on his phone tonight is downstream of that call. The call to Mara Sullivan at 9:10. The call to Diane at 9:41, after he has finished writing. The call from his own lawyer of record on Friday morning. All of them are follow-ups. Donovan was the only number dialed from memory. He walks the rest of the way home. 3/4 of a mile in a 28-degree wind. He does not tell Diane at the door. He pours a glass of water. He washes his hands at the kitchen sink, the way a surgeon washes them. He sits at the kitchen table, under the one bulb in the fixture that still works, and he writes on a yellow legal pad in block print, in pencil, because a pencil does not fail in the cold. Times, names, words, diagram of the booth, diagram of the stop, 2 question marks beside 2 sentences he is not sure of. At 9:10, he calls Mara Sullivan, civil rights attorney, small firm 2 counties over. He has her number because a neighbor of his testified in a case of hers 6 years ago and would not shut up about her at church for a month. Sullivan answers on the 3rd ring. She listens for 2 minutes without speaking. She says, "I will take this. No retainer tonight." Then she says the only 2 words she says for the rest of the call. Document everything. Diane walks into the kitchen at 9:40. She sees the legal pad. She sees the coffee. She sees the cake still in its white bakery box on the counter, untouched. She sits down across from him, and she waits. He does not cry. He does not explain the army, because she already knows. He tells her what he was called in the diner, in the same voice he uses to say the weather, and Diane nods the way a woman nods when she has been waiting 20 years for a husband to have to say something like that out loud. They picked the quietest man in the diner. The quietest man in the diner knew exactly which number to dial. The call with Donovan closed with 1 line at 7:10 and change. Don't be surprised if someone you don't know starts pulling records. Nora Brennan is 34 years old, a features writer turned investigative stringer for the regional paper, and she has been waiting for a story like this for 5 years without knowing it. Sullivan's paralegal puts them in contact on a Monday morning. They meet at a coffee shop 2 blocks from the courthouse, in a back booth where the espresso machine drowns the conversation for anyone at the counter. Nora orders a plain coffee and a pen from the barista because her own pen has died. She asks hard questions. She asks them the way a surgeon asks about a pain, without apology and without delay. Why that diner? Why that Thursday? Why that phrase? What was he wearing? What was on the plate? What was his left hand doing when the words came out? Did he ever, at any point in the last 20 years, give a Cedar Falls officer a reason to notice his face before? Yates answers each question in the order it is asked. He does not embellish. He does not rehearse. He tells her about the challenge coin on the shelf without telling her what it says. She writes it down anyway. She files her first Freedom of Information Act request at 3 in the afternoon. Dispatch logs, body cam metadata, tow records for the night of the stop, Precinct 9 schedules for the preceding 12 Thursdays. Within 10 days, 3 things arrive in her inbox. One thing walks through the front door of the paper. The first arrival is a spreadsheet, emailed at 1 in the morning from an address that bounces by sunrise. 6 years of citizen complaints filed against officers at Precinct 9, cross-referenced by officer name. Whitaker appears in 38 entries. 6 complaints were sustained. 32 were marked unfounded or not sustained. The pattern is the pattern. R6 sits in her drafts folder for a day before she opens a second browser tab and begins to verify each one against public docket numbers, which exist and which match. The second arrival is larger. A former Holloway towing and recovery dispatcher, fired in the spring for what the company called insubordination, sends her a 32-megabyte attachment with a single sentence in the body of the email. "This is what I was fired for not forgetting." The attachment is a ledger. 3 years of per tow fees, broken down by officer of record, broken down by time of day, broken down by a column the dispatcher labeled, in her own handwriting, Blue Shield kickback. The numbers are small per tow, $40 here, $60 there, and large in aggregate. Thursdays show 3 times the weekly average. R7. The third arrival is public. Form 990 filings for the Blue Shield Benevolent Fund, pulled from a non-profit database that anyone with an internet connection can read. The fund lists itself as community-facing. The disbursements list tells a different story. A leadership retreat at a lake resort 90 miles away. Gym memberships. A dinner catered at a venue Nora looks up and discovers charges 4 figures per plate. Community grants, the last line of the disbursement sheet, account for less than 4% of annual spending. The figures here are illustrative of a composite case, but the trend line is the kind that does not argue with itself. R8 is a PDF, 16 pages, and the last page is the one that matters. The fourth thing does not come by email. At 4:12 on a Tuesday afternoon, a man in a department store windbreaker walks into the lobby of the paper and asks to speak with Ms. Brennan. He will not give his name to the receptionist. He gives it to Nora in the back booth of the same coffee shop an hour later. Detective Holden Pierce, Internal Affairs, Cedar Falls Police Department, 44 years old. In the department 18 years, in IA for the last 7. He wrote a memo in the spring of 2023 flagging the structural relationship between the fund and the asset forfeiture line item of the Precinct 9 budget. He filed it through channels. It did not arrive at the chief's desk. He kept his copy in a fireproof box in his garage. He slides a manila folder across the table. He does not ask for protection. He asks for time. R9 is 14 pages, stamped and dated, and the stamp does not match the routing log it should have generated. Nora takes the folder home. She does not sleep that night. The fluorescent tube over her kitchen table hums at a pitch that will be in her head for the rest of the month. On the stove, a bowl of soup goes cold, and then warm, and then cold again. She cross-checks the memo's dates against the ledger's dates, against the 990's dates, and finds a line that runs through all 3 like a seam. Pierce meets her in the parking lot of a hardware store at the edge of town, twice in 1 week, to answer follow-up questions. He does not say the chief's name. He does not have to. Sullivan's paralegal, a woman named Teresa, runs a second cross-check at the firm on a Thursday night while her boss is in court, and comes up with the same seam. Yates stays out of it publicly. He welds. He delivers a gate to a farm in the next county. He goes to Grace's volleyball game on a Friday night and does not tell anyone in the bleachers what is coming. He sits with Diane in the second row and eats a hot dog that he did not order, because Grace has decided her father needs to eat more. At the counter of a hardware store across town, a different one, a regular he has said morning to for 15 years, sees him and looks away. Yates nods at the back of the man's head and keeps walking. On a Wednesday, Sullivan sends him 2 pieces of information he did not ask for. Department of Motor Vehicles records show that the license plate of the Coleman Iron Works Ford was run through the state system 4 times in the 8 weeks preceding the stop. All 4 inquiries originated from units under Lieutenant Whitaker's supervision. None of the 4 is associated with a reported incident, a traffic stop, a citation, or a dispatch call. That is pattern T2, and it is a finger pointing at the diner before he ever walked through the door. The second piece of information is the seam. The Blue Shield Fund's deposit dates, cross-referenced against civil asset forfeiture filings at the county clerk, match to the dollar. Not within a margin, to the dollar. That is pattern T3, and it is the fund's front door. Nora files her first piece on a Thursday, 9 days after the stop. Her editor titles it, after some argument, one word: Thursday. No names, no slur. Just a pattern and a calendar and 4 sources, one of them on the record. The piece goes regional in 36 hours. A national wire picks it up in 96. You do not need a confession when you have a calendar. If you have ever been the only quiet person in a loud room, the one watching the clock, the one memorizing a license plate on a napkin, drop a word in the comments and stay with him. The loud ones are about to push back. On a Thursday morning, 4 weeks to the day after the stop, a city code enforcement inspector opens a file in his office at 5:12 before his shift begins. You know what nobody tells you about cases like this? The dramatic confession everybody keeps waiting for never actually shows up. It doesn't happen in a courtroom. It doesn't happen under bright lights. It doesn't happen the way people want it to. What cracks every one of these things wide open is something smaller, quieter, harder to notice, until it's too late. It's some quiet woman in a back office who kept a ledger she wasn't supposed to keep. And one day, she got tired of being the only one carrying it. The inspector pulls up at the gate of Coleman Ironworks at 7:40 on a Thursday morning, 4 weeks after the stop. He is polite. He removes his sunglasses before he speaks. He carries a clipboard and a neatly folded notice, and a phrase he has used for 30 years. "Sir, I'm with Cedar Falls Code Enforcement. I'm here to do a walkthrough." Yates lets him in. Yates offers him coffee. Yates, in every conversation he has had in his life, has offered the other person coffee. The notice runs 2 pages. 19 alleged violations. A welding permit not updated. A permit Yates has filed in person at City Hall 3 times in 6 years, the last time in July, with a stamped copy in a 3-ring binder in the office. A setback dispute that was adjudicated in 2019. An alleged improper storage of compressed gas cylinders that happens to be wrong by manufacturer specification. The inspector, to his credit, looks uncomfortable by the 11th item. The inspector's log, pulled under Sullivan's preservation order 2 weeks later, will show he was dispatched at 5:12 in the morning, 4 hours before his shift officially began. R10 is a timestamp on a dispatch record, and a timestamp is a very hard thing to talk away. At Diane's workplace, a pediatric clinic where she has been the front office manager for 11 years, the phone rings 3 times in 1 week with no voice on the other end. Then, once, with a voice. A man's voice. Male, 40s. He says the family's home address in a flat, announcing tone, and then he hangs up. Diane writes the time down on a sticky note and puts the sticky note in a drawer that already has 3 other sticky notes in it. Her hands shake for a week opening the back door of the clinic after dark. Grace is 16 years old and a junior at Cedar Falls High School. On a Saturday afternoon, walking across the parking lot of the grocery store with a gallon of milk and a bag of carrots, she notices a gray sedan that has been 3 cars behind her for 20 minutes. She does not run. She does not call. She gets in her mother's car, locks the doors, and drives in the opposite direction of her house for 2 full miles before she turns back. In the glove box, she writes the license plate of the gray sedan in eyeliner on a napkin. She shows it to her father at the kitchen table that night. Yates reads the plate. He does not say anything out loud. He adds it to a spreadsheet that Sullivan's paralegal, Teresa, has begun to maintain. On Monday morning, A local op-ed appears under the byline of a contributor Nora has never heard of. The headline calls her reporting race-baiting clickbait. The piece runs 400 words. The comments section closes in 40 minutes after 3 separate readers post screenshots of the contributor's public profile, showing a consulting retainer from a municipal police association. Lieutenant Whitaker, through counsel, issues a prepared statement the same afternoon. It is 2 sentences long, and it is entered into the record exactly as filed. The lieutenant's attorney states his client maintains the stop was lawful, that no racially motivated statement was made, and that he will be vindicated by a full review of the body cam footage. The statement is entered into the record as a matter of fairness. The body cam footage is entered into the record as a matter of fact. The two do not have to fight each other. They already are. On a Tuesday night, the back window of the Coleman Ironworks office is broken. Nothing is taken. The cash drawer sits untouched. The computer sits untouched. A welding hood on the workbench has a boot print on it. Large, deliberate, dead center on the crown. Yates photographs the hood and sends the photograph to Sullivan and to Teresa and to a friend at the post office who knows the police shift schedule. He does not call Cedar Falls Police. There is no version of that call in which he wins. Sullivan files that same afternoon a motion for a preservation order on all video, dispatch, radio, body cam, and internal email records for the Cedar Falls Police Department, citywide, for the full calendar month of the stop. The motion is granted in the morning. They are not trying to win the argument. They are trying to make the argument expensive. On Friday, at 4 in the afternoon, Sullivan opens a sealed envelope delivered by hand from the office of the city attorney. The letterhead is heavy. The watermark is real. She reads the letter once. She reads it a second time. Then she picks up the phone and calls Yates and tells him to come in, alone, on Saturday morning. Sullivan comes to the house on Saturday morning. She takes off her shoes at the front door, because Diane has a rule about shoes, and she sits at the kitchen table under the same one bulb that still works. She reads the letter out loud, slowly, because the letter deserves to be heard slowly. The city of Cedar Falls, without admitting liability, offers a settlement. The amount is in the low 6 figures. The conditions are 3. 1. A full release of all present and future claims against the city, the department, any named officer, and any entity identified in the complaint. 2. A confidentiality clause covering the facts of the stop, the diner, the tow, the audio, the ledger, the memo, and any derivative information. 3. A non-disparagement clause, barring any public statement regarding the events by any party, in any medium, for any reason, in perpetuity. Diane listens without looking up. Her hands are folded on the table the way a woman folds her hands in church. Grace is upstairs, and she is not upstairs. Her bedroom door is closed. Her breathing is audible through the floor vent. The math, on a yellow pad, is honest. The money finishes her college fund twice over. The money repairs the shop, replaces the truck, puts a new roof on the east side of the house where the rain has been coming in since the spring. The silence, on the same yellow pad, finishes something else. Yates asks Diane. Diane says, "Ask Grace." Diane does not raise her voice. Grace comes downstairs in a sweatshirt with her name on it. She looks at her father for a long time. She does not cry. She says one thing, and she says it quiet. "What would you tell me to do, Dad?" He does not answer. He takes a walk. It is Saturday afternoon, and the light is thin and gold on the east side sidewalks. He walks past the church, past the post office, past the corner of 8th and Spruce, where as a boy he used to wait for his own father's truck on Fridays after school. He stands on that corner for 9 minutes. He does not cry. He does not speak out loud. Grace's birthday passes that week. The cake stays in its bakery box on the counter for 3 days before Diane quietly moves it to the back of the refrigerator. The 16 candles, in their cardboard sleeve, stay in the drawer next to the good silverware. The draft settlement is 14 pages. R11 is a document with a watermark and a line near the bottom of page 11 that reads, in bold print, "The releaser shall make no public statement regarding the events of," and then a date and a street name. Most people take the offer. Most people should. This is not a story that pretends otherwise. The ones who do not take it are not braver than the ones who do. They are something else. They are people who cannot live with the particular quality of the quiet that the money buys. For some, that quiet is tolerable. For some, it is not. Yates sits with the letter at the kitchen table for 4 days. He reads it every morning. He reads it every night. On the 4th night, he signs a different document, a formal declination, prepared by Sullivan, 2 pages long, typed on letterhead, handed back on a Wednesday afternoon. Silence has a price tag. Tonight, he is learning his. Stay with him. The door he is about to open is not the one he was warned about. On Sunday afternoon, the doorbell rings. A retired sergeant Yates has never met stands on the porch with a cardboard box the size of a microwave. Glenn Rutherford is 66 years old. He wears a Veterans of Foreign Wars windbreaker over a plaid shirt and a belt that was bought in the 90s and has outlasted 2 belt buckles. He retired from the Cedar Falls Police Department 4 years ago with 29 years on the job, a wife buried 18 months, and a fireproof box in his garage that nobody in the department knew was there. He takes off his cap in the foyer. He sets the cardboard box on the kitchen table, gently, as if the cardboard could bruise. "I did not know your name before this week," he says. "I know it now." Inside the box are 4 things. 1. His personal shift logs, handwritten in pencil in small notebooks, covering the years 2017 through 2021. Every Thursday of every month, every tow, every officer of record, every amount. 2. A private email chain with a superior, printed on paper, hole-punched, dated. The chain ends with a 1-line reply that reads, "Let it go, Glenn." 3. A handwritten list on yellow pages torn from a legal pad. Names, dates, dollar amounts, cross-referenced against a column labeled Thursday. R12 is the spine of the timeline Teresa has been building for 3 weeks. 4. A sealed envelope addressed, in Rutherford's own hand, to the United States Attorney for the Western District. Unopened. Unmailed. Rutherford does not want money. He says this twice, once sitting down and once standing up. He does not want a camera. He does not want his face on a website. What he wants is for his name to appear on an affidavit, and for one sentence to be read, by him or by someone else, into the record at the public hearing he has read will be held in 2 weeks at City Hall. The sentence is 11 words. He has rehearsed it in his kitchen for a year. "I was there. I saw. I am sorry it took me this long." That night, 2 members of Yates's VFW post pull into the driveway in a pickup with a sheet of plywood in the bed. They do not knock. They measure the broken window at the shop and cut the plywood to size and screw it into place. And when they are done, they sit on the tailgate with Yates and drink coffee from a thermos one of them has brought. They do not talk about the case. They talk about fishing in the spring and about a boy from the post who has just shipped to basic. On Sunday morning, the pastor of the East Side Church, a Black Baptist church where Yates's grandfather is buried out back under a low stone, puts Yates on the prayer list without naming what for. 3 women in the second row recognize the omission and understand it precisely. Nora files her second piece on a Monday. This one has names: Whitaker, Harper, Bellamy, Holloway, The Fund. The piece is printed on the front page of the regional edition and above the fold in 2 cities 300 miles away. He thought he was alone at the counter. He was not alone at all. On a Wednesday night, Agent Donovan calls. She does not say much. She asks Yates to keep his phone charged on Thursday night. 8 weeks after the phone call on Magnolia Street, a side door on the north face of Precinct 9 opens at 9:12 in the morning. 3 people in navy windbreakers walk in. They do not knock. They do not wait. No one walks them back out for 40 minutes, and when they do, they are carrying file boxes by hand. The public entrance of the precinct stays open all morning. A desk clerk processes a lost wallet report for a tourist from Delaware, while 2 rooms away, a filing cabinet is being inventoried by a team that has a warrant, a manifest, and a quiet, unhurried manner. The tourist does not know. The tourist files her form, thanks the clerk, and leaves. The clerk is thanked for her trouble. She does not know, that morning, that her line of work has just changed shape. She will find out on the evening news, like everyone else in the building. The warrants were signed at 4:58 in the morning by a federal magistrate, 3 hours east. The application ran 61 pages. The attached affidavit ran 28. Paragraph 14 of the affidavit referenced a voice recording received by an agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation on a Thursday evening in November. The timestamp and duration listed in full, and the recording entered into evidence under its original file name. Paragraph 14 begins with his phone number. Chief Raymond Bellamy is not at his desk at 9:12. He is in a breakfast meeting across town at a hotel restaurant, on the schedule the agents pulled 2 days before, in a booth the agents chose not to interrupt. He will return to the precinct at 20 past 10 and find the side door taped open and a receipt for 143 seized items taped to his office chair. By 5 in the afternoon, a redacted portion of the affidavit is on public record. Reporters crowd the courthouse steps in a town 3 hours east. The federal investigation, the unsealed pages reveal, has been open for more than 7 months. Yates's phone call did not begin it. His recording accelerated it. The November timestamp converted a dormant predicate into an active warrant file. Agent Donovan, reached by a national reporter on the courthouse steps at 5:14, gives exactly one on-record line. She gives it flat, without inflection, in the voice of a woman who has learned not to let a sentence tilt one way or the other. Allegations of racial bias are a civil rights matter. Financial self-dealing is a federal one. Both are in scope. The line prints verbatim on every front page the next morning. Lieutenant Travis Whitaker is placed on unpaid administrative leave by 6:20 that evening, by written order signed by the acting chief, which is not Raymond Bellamy. The signature line on the order is blocky, clear, and does not shake. Sergeant Dale Harper's attorney calls the United States Attorney's Office at 9:02 the next morning. By noon, Harper is walking from a black sedan into a federal courthouse with a folder and a new understanding of the word cooperation. R13, the redacted affidavit excerpt, goes to Nora at 8 in the evening, stamped and page numbered. She reads paragraph 14 3 times at her kitchen table, and then she prints it and pins it to a corkboard above her desk. The fluorescent tube hums its familiar pitch above her head. At 7 the next morning, the city of Cedar Falls announces an emergency oversight hearing. It will be held in the council chamber at City Hall in 6 days. It will be streamed. 2 national outlets ask for feed access within an hour of the announcement. Yates is asked to speak. He says yes. He asks for 10 minutes. The council chamber at City Hall is standing room only by 6:45. Uniforms line the back wall, arms crossed, eyes forward. The middle rows are reporters, regional, state, 2 from national outlets, all of them typing the same word, Thursday, into the same shared document. The front rows are neighbors, the choir director from the East Side Church, 2 of Yates's welding customers, Grace, in a navy dress, hands folded. Diane, 1 row back, where she can watch the back of Grace's head and the front of her husband at the same time. Councilwoman Adele Hartley, 51, chair of the Public Safety Committee, gavels the chamber to order at 7 sharp. Mayor Ellis Whitmore reads a prepared statement that is 3 paragraphs long and says, in plainer words than he would have chosen, that the city is fully cooperating with all authorities and looks forward to the findings of the federal inquiry. Chief Raymond Bellamy reads his own statement next, by prior arrangement with counsel. He reads it carefully. He does not deviate. The statement is entered into the record as a matter of fairness and as a matter of fact. Yates takes the lectern at 7:18. He does not raise his voice. He does not accuse anyone in the chamber by name. He reads a timeline from a single sheet of paper. He plays 82 seconds of audio from a phone speaker, the voice memo from a corner booth in a diner on a Thursday in November. And the chamber becomes the kind of quiet that is not comfortable. He holds up 1 page from the Blue Shield Benevolent Fund's Form 990 and reads the line at the bottom of the disbursements table. He reads Glenn Rutherford's 11-word sentence into the record, as promised, with Rutherford standing at the back of the chamber in his VFW windbreaker, hat in his hand. He closes with 1 line. No one stands above the law, not even the people sworn to enforce it. He sits down. The chamber stays silent long enough for the word sworn to keep ringing in the rafters. Councilwoman Hartley calls for a motion. The motion is to refer all Blue Shield Benevolent Fund records to an independent auditor and to suspend the department's Civil Asset Forfeiture Authority pending review. The vote is 6-1. A second motion formalizes Lieutenant Travis Whitaker's unpaid administrative leave, on the record, in writing, over the objection of a single council member whose objection is noted and whose vote is logged. Sergeant Dale Harper's name is not read at the hearing. It will be read at the next one. Outside the chamber, on the stone steps of City Hall, Nora files her final piece of the week from her phone. A national wire picks it up inside 12 minutes. A neighbor Yates has known for 16 years, a man who has borrowed a pipe wrench from him and returned it unwashed, walks up the steps in the cold, shakes his hand, and cannot think of anything to say. Yates thanks him. He means it. He came in carrying a folder. He leaves carrying a city's attention. On the sidewalk, his phone buzzes in his coat pocket. The number is blocked. He looks at the screen for 3 seconds. He does not answer. I've been writing stories like this one for years, and I still don't fully have the words for what just happened in that chamber. A guy walks up, doesn't raise his voice once, lays down a folder, and a lieutenant's career evaporates in real time. Most people never get to see power like that. Not loud power. Not obvious power. Quiet power. The kind that doesn't argue, because it doesn't have to. You just did. 1 month later, the corner booth at the Blue Ridge Diner is empty, because the Blue Ridge Diner is empty. A notice taped inside the glass of the front door announces the restaurant is temporarily closed for renovation. The notice has been there for 3 weeks. The ceiling camera has been removed. Emma Carrington works the cafeteria at the regional hospital now. She says it is safer. She says it is simpler. She does not say it is better. Pete Callahan has not been seen at the register in a month. Yates sits at a counter in a new place across the street, a small lunch spot run by a couple from 2 towns over who do not know his name yet and who pour a cup of black coffee that is strong past honesty. He takes the receipt. He writes the time on the back in block print, in pencil, because he does not know how to stop and he does not want to. Grace's late birthday cake was cut 2 weeks ago, on a Tuesday night, at the kitchen table. She kept 1 candle in her sock drawer. The officer once said skin color made him lose his appetite. The city just lost its appetite for officers like him. If you want to know what the auditor finds, what the grand jury returns, and whose name is read next, stay with this one. He sets the fork down. He lifts the cup. He has earned his coffee.